Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Steve Bannon, an advisor to former President Trump, must report to prison to serve his 4-month sentence. A federal judge ruled that today. Police break up a human smuggling ring that moves illegal immigrants into the U.S. from Canada. We have more on their operations. A group of lawmakers are trying to overturn New York City's sanctuary city laws. We'll tell you how and why they want to do this. Paying tribute to history and with a warning for current times, President Biden invokes current issues and themes as he commemorates D-Day in Normandy, Iris Tao in France. Predators increasingly gain access to children through online gaming and social media. A father creates an AI-powered app after his daughter is approached online to help parents protect their kids. A federal judge sentenced former Trump advisor Steve Bannon to prison today. He was convicted of contempt of Congress in 2022 for failing to disclose information to the House January 6 committee. The judge in the case had previously stayed the sentencing, but the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously threw out several challenges Bannon made to the case. Following today's sentencing, Bannon defiantly told reporters outside the courthouse that the 4-month prison term won't stop him or Trump supporters from speaking out.
There's nothing that can shut me up and nothing that will shut me up. There's not a prison built or a jail built that will ever shut me up. All victory to MAGA. We're going to win this.
Those arguments was that his testimony was protected by Trump's claim of executive privilege. The D.C. Appeals Court disagreed, saying Bannon had left the White House in 2017 and was a private citizen who consulted with Trump. His lawyer says otherwise.
The unequivocal evidence in this case, without any dispute, is that Mr. Bannon never got the subpoena. His lawyer got the subpoena, and his lawyer told him executive privilege has been invoked. President Trump confirmed that, and his lawyer told him that when an executive privilege has been invoked, you may not, as a matter of law, comply with this subpoena. It's not your privilege to...
Bannon's attorneys argued the Trump-appointed judge doesn't have the authority to put him in prison before allowing him to exhaust his options to appeal. That includes taking his case to the U.S. Supreme Court. Bannon is scheduled to report to federal prison on July 1st. Another Trump aide, trade advisor Peter Navarro, was convicted of contempt of Congress and reported to prison in March to serve his 4-month sentence. And President Biden is in France today, attending a D-Day commemoration in Normandy. In his speech, Biden outlined lessons from World War II to warn against bowing to dictators and isolating the U.S. in today's world. NTD's Iris Tao has more.
Right here near the beaches of Normandy, President Biden hails the fight for freedom as he commemorates the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, which turned the tide in World War II.
The battle between freedom and tyranny. The Allied forces of D-Day did their duty. Now the question for us is, in our hour of trial, will we do ours?
Biden gave a speech this morning at the Normandy American Cemetery, which is technically American soil, as the French gifted the land to the U.S. after the war. More than 70,000 U.S. troops joined Allied forces for the daring D-Day operation, which, despite heavy casualties, marked the largest seaborne invasion in human history and paved the way for the Nazis' defeat in Europe. President Biden meeting with surviving veterans who fought in Normandy, most into the late 90s and some over 100. This could be the last major commemoration in which these veterans are alive to bear witness.
Let us be worthy of their sacrifice.
Biden also invoked common themes in his 2024 pitch, among which defending democracy.
We defend democracy. We stand together.
Bolstering NATO.
Isolationism was not the answer 80 years ago and is not the answer today.
And supporting Ukraine.
We will not walk away.
And on Friday, Biden will give another speech in Normandy, this time focused on freedom and democracy and targeting audiences at home in the U.S. In that speech, he's expected to contrast himself with his 2024 rival, former President Trump, and highlight the, quote, dangers of isolationism. And Biden over the weekend is also expected to meet with French President Emmanuel Macron in his first state visit to France as president. It all comes as revitalizing alliances remains a top agenda in Biden's 2024 campaign. Reporting from Normandy, France, Iris Tao, NTD News.
And back to the U.S., the Friends of the World War II Memorial held a commemorative service at the National Mall in remembrance of the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has those details.
2 World War II veterans and the surviving daughter of a U.S. serviceman who died in the beaches of Normandy 80 years ago were honored this Thursday at the National Mall. I spoke with U.S. Army Major Matt Visser as he reflected on today's anniversary. Let's listen what he had to say.
Today was meaningful to reflect on how much was accomplished by the greatest generation, but also to reflect on how unified we are with our allies. There's really strong alliance. Important for me to be a part of today. I've served with the 101st and the 82nd Airborne Division, as well as 18th Airborne Corps.
The 101st Airborne Division is the U.S. Army unit that parachuted behind enemy lines on D-Day. Foreign delegations also placed wreath this Thursday at the National Mall in commemoration of the shared sacrifice with Allied troops.
Really makes you reflect about what the finest generation did for future generations and how we got together after the Second World War to make sure that something like this would never happen again. It's really a time to think about where we are, where we're going, and what the future generations left for us to take care of.
I also spoke with Vietnam War veteran John Moreland as he reflected on what D-Day and World War II meant for his generation.
Well, my dad was a World War II veteran, but just being here thinking after reading books on, the D-Day invasion and what this country did, it's honoring to me. You get chills, and anytime I ever hear, Star Spangled Banner or taps, it's hard to keep tears from getting in my eyes.
The Friends of the World War II Memorial read the list of the approximately 1,000 known U.S. service members who died on D-Day 80 years ago. It's also worth noting that as part of the commemorative event, at least 12 U.S. congressmen traveled to France and at least 8 U.S. congressmen who are military veterans parachuted into Normandy this Thursday. Back to you.
And the border crisis is impacting not just the southern border, but also the border to the north. Canadian authorities say they have broken up a large-scale human smuggling ring that moved hundreds of immigrants illegally into the United States. Canada's federal police said they arrested 4 people and issued arrest warrants for 4 others. The gang allegedly charged immigrants thousands of dollars each before moving them through communities in Canada and then across the border into the U.S. This happened between July 2022 and June 2023. Police said transnational criminal networks are exploiting people who want to make the cross-border journey. Police said some lost their lives during the nighttime crossings, but gave no details. 2 of the people that police have charged come from an Indigenous reserve that straddles both sides of the U.S.-Canada border. And a group of lawmakers are trying to overturn New York City's sanctuary city laws. This comes after a growing number of crimes committed by illegal immigrants. NTD's Fiona G. has more.
Today in City Hall, the New York City Common Sense Caucus introduced legislation that they hope will help to repeal sanctuary city laws. Leader of the caucus, Councilmember Robert Holden, says that the current sanctuary city laws allow criminals to enter the city easily and without detection.
Why shield criminals? Why? If they attack 40 people and they have a robbery gang, do we want to keep them so they can victimize more citizens? It's certainly insane to do that. But it's common sense to get rid of these laws. They don't protect immigrants, they protect criminals.
As the mayor stated back in February, that he was going to start to open the doors of communication so that we could once again bring ICE and our police together and deport these criminals.
Supporters of today's proposed legislation say that sanctuary city laws are actually preventing the NYPD from working together with federal agencies in order to identify and detain criminals entering the country illegally. They cited an incident from earlier this week when 2 New York police officers were shot by an illegal immigrant from Venezuela. Now, Councilman Holden is emphasizing that today's legislation would target criminals and not immigrants. Fiona G., NTD News.
On Wednesday, scuba divers off Florida's Atlantic coast found 25 individually wrapped kilograms of suspected cocaine in roughly 100 feet of water. They made the discovery while removing what they thought was trash. The package wrapping included a fake Nike logo. They weigh around 55 pounds overall. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office responded to the Rainbow Reef Dive Center in Key Largo and took possession of the suspected cocaine. The Sheriff's Office then turned it over to the U.S. Border Patrol. Now back in New York, the suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders has been charged with the murder of 2 more women. This brings the total possible victims to 6. 60-year-old Rex Hewerman was charged with second-degree murder today over the deaths of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Castilla. Taylor disappeared in 2003, and her remains were discovered in 2011 by the Long Island beach. Prosecutors said Castilla was likely killed in 1993. Her remains were discovered shortly after in a wooded area. Her body showed sharp force injuries. Hewerman remains behind bars without bail. His next court date is set for July 30th. And the playground has gone digital as children increasingly spend time playing games online and surfing social media. However, the shift from the jungle gym to the internet has also given predators an edge. NTD's Andrew Thomas speaks with the founder of an AI-powered app for parents to learn more about the issue.
In 2015, David Everett allowed his 11-year-old daughter to play Minecraft for the first time. It wasn't long before she let him know that someone was trying to communicate with her via the popular game's chat box. The experience was just one example of predators increasingly attempting to entice children online.
Predators are using gaming specifically to begin the grooming process. And so they'll look for vulnerabilities, they'll try to engage your child, they'll try to recognize that there are a ton of young kids on these platforms, and they're very impressionable, they trust quickly.
Everett's personal experience motivated him to create GameSafe, an app that allows parents to monitor their kids' online gaming conversations.
So that's what we've done, is that AI can be trained to protect children. Have a robot, a little AI robot on your child's shoulder that sees what's happening, what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're saying, and then that gets evaluated for threat.
GameSafe Chief Development Officer Dr. Lisa Stroman is an attorney, clinical psychologist, and author. She says we need to take online gaming and social media as seriously as we take physical threats to children.
Children are cautious about guns and weapons because they know that they're dangerous. But what we've done as a society is handed devices and acted like there's no danger involved. And so as parents, we're missing that part where children are curious, they are pushing boundaries. And so developmentally, we have to come in and understand how vulnerable they are in those settings.
Predators have increasingly turned to sextortion, in which they solicit explicit images from a child through an online game. The perpetrator will then demand a ransom, more images, or an in-person meeting. Stroman worries technology has left children more exposed than ever.
I think it's increased in recent years. I think post-pandemic, there's like a massive influx of younger kids being handed devices. And so it's like Pandora's box, right? We can't unwind that and take that back from them. So I think that the numbers of children that are being victimized is absolutely increased.
Parents, the public, and internet service providers can report online predatory activity to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children cyber tip line. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
When we come back, the European Central Bank cut rates for the first time in 5 years today, but kept investors in the dark about its next move. NFL Sunday Ticket subscribers are filing a class action lawsuit against the Pro League over claims of antitrust violations over out-of-market games. $1 billion in damages is at stake. That and more after the break.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of alien tape free. You wouldn't stick your mother-in-law on the wall, but you could with alien tape. It just sticks. Just peel and stick to make anything stay in place quick. Brick, pavers, marble, tile, plastic, even leather. Nothing works better than alien tape. You wouldn't stick your fishbowl on a moving car, but you could with alien tape. The secret is nano-stick technology that grabs and locks on to secure one side of the surface to the other. Alien tape secures in seconds, then twist, pull, and rinse to reuse. Call or go online to get your first roll of alien tape for just $19.99, plus shipping and processing. But to make this deal really stick, we'll give you 2 more rolls absolutely free. You get 3 rolls of alien tape for one low price. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-490-1364 or go to tryalientape.com. So call 1-800-490-1364 or order online at tryalientape.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Che, the director and writer of The Firing Squad. You can participate in our Million Souls campaign, inviting everyone you know to Jesus. Listen, we all face some kind of firing squad in our lives, and yet faith in the Lord, that challenge can lead us to true peace in this insane world. We can't do it without you. We're competing with big Hollywood movies, so we're relying on your voice to spread the word. Thank you again for supporting this important movie.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic, so I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
A class action lawsuit against the NFL began today in a federal court in Los Angeles. Opening arguments were underway. Subscribers to the league's Sunday ticket package of games accuses the NFL of breaking antitrust laws. It has to do with games outside of a local market that are not airing nationally on other networks. The lawsuit alleges that the NFL is restricting out-of-market games to the package. That, in turn, the plaintiffs say, forces customers to pay more if they only want to watch one team or a small group of teams. The suit is seeking billions in damages. The case was revived by the U.S. Court of Appeals in 2019 after it was dismissed in 2017. And visiting the American Cemetery in Normandy is a deeply moving experience for many U.S. travelers. The place holds the memory of thousands of U.S. soldiers who died 80 years ago and inspires those who visit. NTD's France correspondent David Vives spoke to some of them.
President Dwight Eisenhower planned and supervised most operations during the invasion of Normandy in 1944. 80 years later, his grandson, David Eisenhower, came to honor the graves of U.S. soldiers. He says the American cemetery is one of the most inspirational spots in the world and a place for meditation.
We walked out onto it. I just heard a gasp go up in the group, just a wow. In other words, what they're seeing is the scale of this battle. It impresses you with the sadness of it, but there's something really uplifting about this place because It's in the way it's designed. It's the colors. It's the timber of the crosses. It's the surrounding terrain, and it's the awareness of the significance of events in Normandy, France. The world changed here, and for the better, and it's something that we all have in common.
The cemetery holds the graves of 9,388 military personnel, the majority of whom perished during the D-Day landings and subsequent operations. Many U.S. visitors have a relative, father or uncle who fought in World War II. Stephen Roberts says his father and several of his friends' fathers were deployed in Normandy and lived to tell the tale.
These are really hallowed grounds. We as Americans enjoy such tremendous freedoms, and those freedoms are given to us by the fine men and women that have sacrificed so much for the United States. Being American, I'm proud of all the wonderful things that American citizens have done in providing freedom throughout the world.
Very humbling, just the price that was paid and what the men and then women did 80 years ago today is just sombering. Just to come see it in person is very, very rewarding and really an honor to be here.
The cemetery receives more than 1 million visitors each year. David Vives, NTD News, Normandy.
And next, the European Central Bank lowering interest rates right after the Bank of Canada doing the same, and global investment in clean energy technology and infrastructure soaring. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Thank you, Steph. Big news in the world of inflation. The European Central Bank cut rates for the very first time in 5 years on Thursday, but kept investors in the dark about its next move. It lowered its record high deposit rate by 0.25% to 3.75, but raised its inflation forecast for this year and the next. The ECB stressed any further rate reduction would depend on incoming data and reaffirmed that borrowing costs needed to remain high enough to keep a lid on prices. So the European Central Bank raised some of its economic growth and inflation projections on Thursday, also predicting a somewhat later return of price growth to its target to 2%. Having tamed runaway inflation with the record string of rate hikes, the ECB cut interest rates the first time since 2019, actually, and with further easing expected as the economy normalizes from a series of shocks related to the pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Besides that, global investment in clean energy technology and infrastructure is set to hit $2 trillion this year. And this is twice the amount going into fossil fuels, apparently, according to an International Energy Agency report. So total energy investment is expected to exceed $3 trillion for the first time in 2024, the IEA said in its annual World Energy Investment Report. Some $2 trillion is set to go to clean technologies, including renewables, electric vehicles, nuclear power grids, storage, low-emission fuels, efficiency improvement, and heat pumps. With the rest directed towards gas, oil, and coal. So combined investment in renewable power and grids overtook the amount spent on fossil fuels for the first time since 2023. All right, Steph, that's all from me. Back to you.
Fishing for junk pays off big time for a lucky couple, and some thrilling experiences for this summer. Take a look.
A magnet fishing trip in muddy waters in Queens, New York is about to reveal riches.
Guys, we got something freaking weighs 2 million pounds here coming out. Oh, that's a safe. That's definitely another safe.
The couple hauling up the hefty safe, cracking it open to see the surprise inside.
Oh, that's money.
And lots and lots and lots of it. Look at all that cold, hard, soggy, muddy cash.
It's all hundreds.
An estimated $100,000. All that loot was just sitting in the lake, and these lucky looters get the prize. Per reports, the couple says the cops allowed them to keep the treasure when they couldn't link that loot to any crime. Over to Norway, peep the incredible, if stomach-churning view from a ladder seemingly hanging over the edge of the earth. This new thrilling tourist attraction allows hikers heading up Mount Hoven to hang out more than 2,500 feet above a fjord in the village of Loen. Dubbed the Stiegel Ladder, the 131-foot-long stairway takes your breath away with both the landscape and the climb up the 120 steps suspended at a 45-degree angle. Operators encourage those on the journey to pause and take in the surrounding picturesque mountains and blue waters. Good news for those who make the trek, there's a restaurant at the top.
An adventurous challenge for sure. Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Stephanie Cox. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.